So you say oftentimes a commitment fear is not so much I don't want to be in a relationship. It's more I don't want to experience the pain that the risk I'm taking may actually cause.
That's exactly right.
Welcome to Marriage with Jim and Teresa. This is my co-host, my wife of the last 40 years, the mother of our 4 children, Teresa the therapist.
We're going to talk about how some people fear commitment.
So you've mentioned that there are 2 distinct fears. Some people fear losing love. Some people fear not having a relationship, love. Some people fear having a relationship, love.
So the fear of losing love, I say this is the more common acknowledged fear. So people who struggle, they might struggle with things like cling tightly to relationships, fearing abandonment or rejection. So they just so into it, they just hold on to, they're just really allowing a lot of things to maybe happen, but they're holding on to this relationship. They overfunction in love, trying to please. They like to fix. They perform just to earn love. And then, that can be anytime you're trying to please, you're trying to fix or perform just to earn love. That's kind of a problem. You avoid being vulnerable, because you believe love is unconditional. It's conditional, not unconditional, which it should be. And it just all that fear is often rooted in past hurts. But it mainly says what happened to me in my past, and that leads to a behavior where you can sabotage your relationship. The intimacy, you can just sabotage the relationship just because of your fear.
Is the fear of keeping love.
Some people fear the responsibility that comes with sustaining an intimate relationship or just a relationship or love and losing themselves in the relationship. And it's all about the other person, which then that eventually wears out as well.
Hey, haven't you said, or at some point in the past in our relationship, that you felt like you were losing yourself in our relationship?
Now, we can take it too far. And I think maybe at one point, maybe I took it too far. I wanted them to have everything they needed, and I sacrificed everything I could to make sure they did. And I didn't do, I guess, stuff for me.
All I know is, and I wasn't sure what you were going to say, I just know, I remember looking over our 40-year marriage. I know there are times we've had conversations where you said you felt like you have put yourself on the back burner. So on the one hand, we're talking about, I have a fear, is it fair to say, of commitment? I know we're saying a fear of being in love, a fear of being in a relationship. And then the other person over here has a fear of losing it.
I really want this connection, but I'm really fearful of.
Okay.
So usually fear, it's rooted in control, abandonment, and even, like I say, I go back to the past. I want this to work this way, but yet there's a fear that's hanging out there. So fear of commitment is often a defense mechanism. It's protection. It's protecting that emotional part that we want so dearly to really be protected because it's very important. So it also can be masked. It can be masked as independence or pickiness. I have high standards, or I like my freedom, or like you said, I'll just get a divorce. But I'm saying in the context of the fear, like you said, I'll leave before someone leaves me. In the context of dealing with the fear, yes, those things could be, but I'm just saying that is what's driving those things and to say I'm not ready. Now, I don't think you're going to. You could say something different. So these protective layers disguise deeper fears. Their heart longs for intimacy, but they fear of being hurt.
So if I want closeness, but I fear getting close.
Well, like I say, it's the fear of that emotional connection that you want, that you might get rejected. But like I say, I tell people, I've told you, everybody, being in a relationship is a risk, but it's the risk you want to take to find that one. Okay, so sabotaging closeness. It's like picking fights when things are going well. So, yeah. So pulling away emotionally after a moment of connection. It also looks like ghosting and withdrawing just when the relationship deepens, flirting with others and acting disinterested to create a distance.
So I guess I didn't understand how much, because you talk about the fear of closeness often stems from the belief that a person believes that intimacy is going to equal eventual pain or loss.
So gently, I guess usually I try to help them be aware of what's happening, the patterns that they're experiencing. So I help them learn to stay emotionally present when they feel vulnerable instead of running away from it.
On the one hand, you said, don't ignore red flags. Look in the mirror before you look out the window. And you're sitting here, okay, why don't I have successful relationships? And you may not have realized, man, I actually have a fear of being in a relationship. Or somebody else may be going, man, I actually realize I have a fear of not being in a relationship.
Or I see myself pulling away.
Yeah.
So really, another one could be saying, I'm not ready, but never exploring why. But I'm just saying those are some of the behaviors you see and which is fear is really all behind that. But it does definitely, that's where the hidden fear is around the failure, fear of failure, the abandonment, and not really saying I'm not good enough. So that is kind of how the brain is processing there.
Because you say, I've heard you say, fear doesn't always shout. What's the rest? Your point was, the reason you may not recognize is because it may be whispering through sabotage, criticism, or hesitation of things that you've mentioned.
Mm-hmm. So when I'm trying to help someone recognize that the whispers is the step toward freedom and connection, and that's what we want them to do. So there is three kind of, let's just say, I'll call them steps toward dealing with that, finding security in the face of fear. And the first thing is identifying core fears. We look at, before someone can feel secure, they must become aware of what's making them feel this, feel fear, feel unsafe. Their rejection or afraid. Something like, you could say something like, I have to be perfect to be loved.
Because that's what you were taught. That's what you learned. That's the behavior.
That was a fear. And this is going to be a little difficult for me, but I had a fear of that I was going to always be overweight, and it's like it happened. And if you know, in my growing up, in the years that I grew up, you got to see certain people. They were in their beautiful dresses. They were small, and I just said, and I needed to be a certain size, and then I would be more accepted. And that has driven me. I didn't get to the size I wanted to be, but that did drive me, and that was a fear. When I went through counseling, when I went through counseling and went through my practicum and everything, and we went through counseling, so I released that, but it still was something that I did fear. And I was never good enough until I got to a certain size.
So while we're not saying don't be aware of health and fitness.
Mm-hmm. That's the next thing I'm going to talk about is communication with transparency. Fear thrives on silence and secrecy.
You need to speak your fear and you need to speak it out loud.
You definitely can name it to yourself first, but also you can talk to a therapist or a good friend that you can trust. I really care about this relationship, but it's hard for me to really trust fully. You see, I just told you I loved this relationship.
So how do I know that our relationship has progressed to the point where I can be, like you just said a few minutes ago, I want to be totally transparent with you. How will I know when my relationship has gotten to the point that I can be that transparent? Now we need to start sharing at a deeper level.
Yeah.
Another thing that you talk about sharing, and again, these would be deeper levels of sharing, is to share with somebody, and I know this is going to make some people uncomfortable, is sharing, hey, I need reassurance.
You're communicating with, and Brene Brown says this, vulnerability is not weakness, it's the birthplace of connection, and that's what we want. When we're connected, we feel safe, we're secure, and we can grow in a relationship.
So one of the things that we coach to is when you are sharing something with someone, we talk about, you don't want to talk about starting with you. When you do this, it makes me feel
that you devalue me, or I feel that you, it can be hurtful. And those are my feelings.
When I do, let's talk about a real example. What I understand you to say is, when I say harsh things to you, it makes you feel unappreciated.
And then you can say, well, that's maybe not how I intended to, and I'm sorry you feel that way.
And
what can I do? Consistent moments when trust is earned
there's no point
and reinforced.
but It's the consistent, everyday actions that make the difference.
That builds the trust.
So,
So some of these small agreements can look like you could say something like, you might respond in a text when you say you will, or do respond, be kind.
safety isn't declared, hey, you're safe here. It's demonstrated.
I said rewind, but it's rewired face-based thinking, and it's developed into a secure attachment. Well, so sometimes I encourage them to track small wins, and then I'll say reinforce their emotional safety is mutual.
You've shared this with me lots of times, but in case anybody missed this, a lot of times when a couple will come into the counseling center, what you will do is sit with them, and I don't know how you do it, you can explain, but basically you just sit back and watch them, whether it's argue, whether it's what you explain.
To allow her to get her thought out, and then I want you to respond to her thought. So here's some final, I guess, insights.
It's the confidence that even with fear, we are seen, known, and still safe. Often whispers through sabotage, criticism, or hesitation. But yeah, that's what we would encourage you to do. That relationship is going to make everything not perfect, not where there isn't situations and troubles and arguments and disagreement, but it's going to make the whole relationship sustainable. If you would subscribe to this show, if you would tell others about it and share, our goal is to influence the way the world does marriage. We look forward to seeing you next week.